Hey everyone, welcome. This is Mark Ehrlichs. Today, what we're going to be doing is answering questions to the best of my ability, and also I'll be working with people, uh, impromptu, intermixed in between the dialogue and the diatribes that I have. And then also there'll be at the very end a very short, extremely short meditation, and but I feel it's very applicable to what we're working with and etc. And let's see if anyone's interested in an appointment. Lynn will also put up the information for that. So, in any case, we have a lot of online courses coming up and various series. And also, I'll be doing, Lynn tomorrow is going to be putting up, or late tonight, I don't know which, putting up the mini course that we had on prayer, my perception of it, one aspect of prayer that we can utilize. Hi, Eileen, good to see you here. Thanks for being here. All right, this is great. A lot of good people here, and that's wonderful. And if you should see the replay of this, please type in the box of the replay, um, hashtag replay, and I'll know that you saw it on the replay. And other than that, anytime you want during this, if you can put on hashtag you rock, one word, um, then that also helps my ratings a little bit, I understand, on Google. And so um, I want everyone, if possible, to have fun tonight and to enjoy what's being done. Elaine, hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Oh, okay, Nashville it is. All right, great. Oh my God, another cosmic connection from many, many years ago. I remember that place really well. Um, uh, I had a lot of fun there. And there was another place in Nashville I used to work out of that was a lot of fun. So, in any case, let's boogie here. And I did get your questions, Elaine. And yeah, thanks, Lynn. You rock. I believe in incarnation. I would like to know how to remove bad karma. Well, uh, karma, in my understanding, hey, Maureen, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Um, and if you want, you can. Uh, no, you already are on camera. I don't know why it says that. So, uh, when we incarnate, um, we don't necessarily bring karma with us. We bring the soul's experience of what we need to experience. That's what the soul's purpose is. And that's what it's for. That's why we're constantly so-called reincarnating, is to work out the dilemmas and situations and dramas and traumas that we've been through in other times and other places. And so we're here to work with those and to face those and to finally recognize who we are. That's the purpose of reincarnation, is to know ourselves. And that's what reincarnation is for. There's no other rhyme or reason for it. And it's just not a haphazard thing in the universe, in the universal mind of the godliness. It's for the purpose of getting to know ourselves. And we keep going through things that we've initiated in our life, of dilemmas and dramas and traumas, and now we get to face them each time that the soul is bringing something up. And we can recognize it, especially if we're feeling a rub with someone or a situation, or we're just out of kilter. And if we stop ourselves and take a look at ourselves at any given moment, if we're feeling that awkwardness inside of ourselves, or a situation isn't going right, it's taking a look at it and trying to understand ourselves, and what is there another way of doing this. And the more logical we become at it, and the more indifferent we become at it, and the more observant we become at it, then the correct way comes to us either immediately or over a short period of time, whatever our dilemmic situation is. And thanks for being here, Susie. Good to see you. And I pray that your hubby is doing great, and that both of y'all are doing wonderful. I believe you're in Texas, and if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. And so we have all these dynamics that the soul is bringing to us, and all we have to do is stop ourselves without any emotion, without any judgment, without any thinkings, and just observe the situation and ask yourself where the rub is. And then we find that what people call karma is not really karma, it's just a way that we've handled situations, or what we grew up with learning how to handle things with. And then we get to, if we're objective enough and observant enough, we get to see another way of doing things. So that's my answer, Mariko. And as far as removing it, all we have to do is be objectively observant. And then we get to know otherwise, and what we call karma dissipates. It kind of leaves us. There's a lot of people out there teaching all kinds of stuff, and I take everything for granted, and I leave it up to the person to find out within themselves what's more correct for them in their life. And it's not necessarily following someone who's had one spiritual experience in their life that they always go back to. It's someone who's lived it for many, many years. And so take a look also at, if you're being taught that you have bad karma, then take a look at the person and their life who's teaching you this stuff, and see where they are, not only in what they're presenting themselves with, but when they're not presenting themselves, see who they are. In any case, that's my take on things. The world according to Garp Mark. And so I hope that makes sense, everyone. Please give me a shout out if it does. And if it doesn't, then ask further about it, and I'll try to explain it further. In any case, I do have one thing I want to say is that before we get on to other questions, please go to the website and you'll find other events, and Lynn is in the process of updating everything on the website. There's lots of events. There's lots of these mini classes that I'm going to be giving. There's no charge for them. And there's also workshops on various topics, a whole sundry of topics that I'll be offering to people. And they're not super expensive for all the information that is in them. And people even have taken my spiritual healing workshop, the same damn workshop, many, many, many times. Some people 25 times, some people more, some people less. But as they take them, they find out there's no rote material that I'm going with, and it's all according to the mind of the group. And so they're all different, in other words. And so please do keep that in mind. Even if you've taken a workshop, that's okay. It's still going to be new information, some basic, but mostly new. One of the, I hope that answered all of Mariko's questions. Please do let me know, Mariko. And by giving me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Hopefully it'll be a thumbs up. Let's see. There's someone who wrote me a question, and it was someone named Sam, a dear friend of mine. And she says, I've been working on my spiritual journey for a few years and working with many teachers. Sometimes I've noticed that they have something in common, and I was wondering if you could answer it. Let me see here. They have difficulty with romantic relationships, divorces, multiple marriages. A teacher I'm close to just ended a 10-year relationship with his girlfriend. He said Spirit told him to. Well, God bless him. That is a good question. I get to see this with many, many spiritual people and teachers that have gone through and continue to go through what you're referring to. Firstly, I really don't believe that spirit acts that way and says, I want you to leave this person after 10 years. You know, I remember many, many years ago, I was teaching a class in Chicago, and to a really large group of people all the time. All my classes, there was just a lot of people, but some of these people, and I was teaching healing, and some of them, a couple of them came up to me one day. They didn't know each other really, but they both made a decision that they're going to go to Sedona, because Sedona is the spiritual mecca of the world, or the United States, or something. And they're going to be healers, and from what I taught them and helped them to open up to. And so I said, why are you going to do that? And they said they got it all planned out. Each of them told me this separately. They got it all worked out. They're going to leave their wife. Well, one of them was married, and he's going to leave his wife and children and just leave. And because he had a spiritual experience that he was a healer. And the other person just had the spiritual experience that they were a healer. I opened it up to them, supposedly. And I know that I did. I helped them to learn how to function with it. But these people wanted to take it full stream and just go to Sedona, the spiritual mecca. And so I guess it was about 6 months later. And I mean, they left everything. They literally everything. This one person, the wife and kids, and the other person left her house and that she owned. They just left, and they went to Sedona to be healers. And so I guess it was about 6 months later or a year later that I went out there to do a workshop. I was invited to do it someplace, a center, and I thought I'd look these people up. Well, I actually found them, and one of them was living on the streets of Sedona, finding out that no one was being attracted to them for being a great healer. And the other person was living in an old burnt-out car in the hills of Sedona, or the mountains of Sedona. And nothing. And he looked like a bum, and he acted like a bum, and disappointed. Both of them were totally deflated in life. And I realized that, you know, spirituality is where you are. Spirituality is your life if you live it, and no matter where you are. So that goes on to my story. And firstly, I really don't believe that spirit acts that way. And it's it's something that we want to believe. It's a fantasy in some respects. And it's a personal choice. And it's not knowing how to handle certain situations in life that we're dealt with, that we're given to work out within ourselves. Many people are led by spirit to fulfill a spiritual accomplishment as part of their spiritual development and growth, but not to break up with someone. Why would a teacher tell anyone of his followers a spiritual experience that involves intimate details? That's another question I have. And that's just a convenient excuse that we give ourselves for something that we want to do, that are and for people that are using spiritual reasonings to tell other people in what they are happening, that to make it sound like it's a spiritual experience to leave someone. And if they had a spirit calling to do these things, they would be more honest and to take a look at the conflict within themselves, I believe. That's more spiritual. That's a lot more spiritual. And sure, people break up, and often they know that they have something to do that's different in life. We're shown the signs all the time. If there's a conflict, though, that can't be corrected, that could be also a reason at times to leave a relationship, but it's being honest about it. Without knowing the specifics of the situation, I wonder if this person hadn't had the reason for a long time, and then in the immediate just to run out or break up. Or I wonder if the other person was calling him on his stuff that he thought was spirituality. Now, who knows? I don't know. And I hope that I'm not taking on the role of Ann Landers here by any ways for the spiritual person. So that's my response to that. And my friend Michelle, she wrote, relationships pertaining to healing. When we pray for and send healing to others with the hope to improve our relationship, and nothing is improved, am I to surrender to the possibility that it never will? I feel like fruit ripening and falling from the family tree, not spoiled, but ready to roll. And my understanding to this, again, not being Ann Landers in this stuff, this is just my experiences of things. I understand your question, and everyone has free will, and we're hopefully mature enough to make rational decisions in life. Some people decide that they don't want to participate anymore, that they also might have other plans that they feel their old life just doesn't fit in them anymore, and this is the only way to do things, they think. They also might realize that other people may be hurt, and they just don't realize it, and they don't take that in consideration. We get these stubborn streaks within ourselves, and this often may be an old pattern that has been a part of their life for many, many years, is to run away, and that they don't want to be a part of that situation anymore because they're having to face themselves maybe, or to escape. There's nothing that people can do, say if someone were to come to me or come to you, that has their mind made up. And it's free will and their decision on how to handle their life. And that's presented to them. As distorted as it may be, or unconventional as it may be. And I think that the dilemma here is that he literally wants to escape for situations that he's facing in himself. And people, when they have to face themselves, they can't handle it, or they don't choose to handle it, I should say. And it's also what a person has learned to do from many, many years ago. They've had other people's experiences. Hey, Carmen, good to see you here, and Elaine. Thanks for being here. I'm really grateful. So these things do happen. And also realize, people, that there is going to be a replay on this as well. And another question. Accepting them as they are, but wanting to alleviate their pain. This is painful for me. I bet it is. We only really have the ability to still accept them, Michelle. And that's all we can do. But oftentimes we only need to know that. And for the time that they're only going to go through the things that they are not to be trusted as they do go through these things. But we can still be loving. And it's also important to be observant and to look for the signs that they exhibit when they're lying to us. So we have to be observant, knowing that this has been the pattern. Sure, there's forgiveness, but we have to also have the eyes of an eagle and the heart of a lamb. And so, but we don't have to be shamed twice. We don't have to be, have the wool pull over our eyes all the time consistently because we want to be spiritual. I don't like getting beat up, and I'm not going to get beat up because that would be a pattern for me. And I'm not going to live my life like that. I don't need to. But I will give my heart and everything I can to someone without repeating the patterns. Good to see you, Carmen. Thanks for being here. So that's my answer, Michelle. And also someone wanted to know, thanks, Mark, Is it okay with a pet to have them put down because they have lost their faculties? One time, this is just a story that comes right into my head. One time when I moved to Phoenix, in the shed of this little house, and I told this story before, in the shed of this little house in the back was a hole that a neighborhood cat, a feral cat, lived in. And all the neighbors knew about the cat, and the whole neighborhood called it Blackie, and no one could ever get near it, but some people would put food near there. And so for the cat not to go hungry. And it was a pure black cat. And it was really pretty, but it was a little bit older, maybe about 5 or 7 years old or something like that. And then I kept going there every single day and putting a dish of cat food there for it. And eventually, as I went into the shed at first, the cat would run out. And then after a while, it would be on the upper rafters of the shed and just hiss at me. But I just kept putting the food out every day and going in there once in a while for tools or doing whatever. And then after a while, the cat stopped hissing at me. And after a longer while, after many months, the cat, Blackie, would actually come up to the bowl to eat, but I wouldn't dare pet it because it was still scared. And then after almost about a year, Blackie let me start petting it. And I felt all these mats in its fur. And so, excuse me for a second, getting all these notifications here. And so even after a little while longer, I got a brush and I started brushing out Blackie's fur, and it started allowing me to a little bit more and more and more and more and more over the many months after that. And so soon all the mats were out and its hair was shiny, its fur was shiny, and it would let me pet it. And then one day it started getting, I noticed that it was getting sick. And I took it to a vet, and it had coronavirus. Excuse me, I'm not crying. I apologize for that. It's in my head. Get out of me. It had feline disease. And so the vet said the best thing you can do is when it gets so sick, bring the cat in, Blackie. And the cat started getting very, very sick. There was nothing that I could do about that. Nothing, as much as I wanted to. And so it was just my place. Eventually, when it was so sick that it couldn't even get up to eat, I brought the cat to the vet, and I stayed with Blackie as they put it to sleep, put him to sleep. And then over the next couple weeks, while I was in my office, I would feel Blackie coming up to me and just loving me. It was actually giving a sensation on my legs, at different spots on my legs where it was rubbing against me, and it was saying thanks in that way. And but the neat thing is, the Blackie evolved, I believe, and so next time Blackie comes around, you know, it's going to be a different life situation for it. I truly believe that with all my heart. And I've seen many an animal on the other side, and they even sometimes have something to say and something to show us in what they're saying, even though it's not words or verbiage, but there's pictures that come with it. And same thing when I work with animals, there's pictures that come with the understandings of what sometimes I'll be able to see in what they're going through, or what had happened with them, or what the situations are like in various ways. So I also believe, to answer your question even more so, Michelle, that if the pet is noticeably losing their quality of life, oh my God, you just don't want it to suffer. Don't want it to suffer at all. And if there's nothing more we can do, but what we can do in many respects is to give it comfort. And but we want to don't want it to suffer. So I would gladly take a pet if it's the last thing that we can do. I would gladly take a pet to the vet without it having to suffer. And so when we work with a pet, even if it's going downhill that you know that is going to have to be put away, you don't want it to be in pain. So when you work with a pet, you go within all your heart to make sure that there is no pain there. And believe me, the pet knows. It truly knows. And I remember one time there was someone who brought their doggie, an older doggie, to the first day of the workshop, I think it was. It was a 2-day workshop on spiritual healing. And she begged me to work with the doggie. And she was staying at the hotel with her husband where the workshop was being given. And so I worked with the doggie real briefly, and I didn't see anything or hear anything or perceive anything. And after I worked with it, she immediately brought it back up to the room. It was the second day, I believe, that she brought the doggie down. And Patty, I don't know if you were at that workshop. I'm not sure if it was Aggie's doggie or what, but in any case, the she brought the doggie down, saying, "You're not gonna," or she didn't bring it down. She just came down and said, "You're not gonna believe this dog's like a little puppy now, and it's just running all over the place. It's functional. You know, it can function in life. It doesn't have any unquality of life." And so that lasted for 3 months. But the whole purpose of that was to give her time to acclimate to the dog's passing, and that the dog can leave at the right time and without pain or discomfort and with a higher quality. And so 3 months exactly, she told me that the dog passed. Everything was just amazing. Just amazing. But when you take a dog to the, when you take any pet to the vet because it is passing, I just highly recommend you're there with the pet. It means everything to them to know that. Very important. Very important. I hope that makes sense, everyone. So here's another one that I got. And Mark, 2 months ago, I gave away a car collection that my husband and I really enjoyed. The next morning, I had a sore throat and laryngitis. I still have the laryngitis. And that was a couple months ago, so she's had it from since. And I've been doing throat and heart chakra meditations, and there's not been any improvement. That was from Elaine. And I'll tell you, I don't believe giving the car collection had anything to do with the development of the sore throat or the laryngitis, unless possibly you had no say in it. And it's like you were holding your voice. You didn't have a choice in it. And but other than that, I believe chakra work. I just don't believe that many people understand what chakra work really is and how to truly work with the chakras for development. It takes many, 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 many years to learn the function of what chakras really are and how to work with them and what they can develop within us. In my experience, there's just someone on every corner that teaches this stuff. And I've actually, not that they're bad or wrong or anything else, everyone has their understandings about it, but there's other types of understandings that people are not conscious of unless they do deep meditations for years about this stuff and learn about it within themselves. Because that's the true teaching on how to develop and work with these things. And so again, there's one on every street corner who teaches this stuff. The same thing with the Kabbalah. The true Hasidics, they don't, the true Kabbalah teachers, they won't even accept anyone as their student till they're at least 40 years of age, so that they have some experience of life. Then they begin to teach them. That's the true Kabbalist, the teacher of it. And I've seen and also worked with many, many people that have been damaged slightly or very injuriously in their bodies trying to crash the gates of heaven with these things. And so, just my take on it. I remember one time, and I've told the story 1,000 times, and hopefully it's not boring to y'all, that one time in my order in Fort Worth, there was this fellow named Brother David, and it was a Saturday, and I walked up to the chapel. I wanted to do some prayer work and meditation stuff, and I figured no one was there, and so I walked. Hey, Heather, good to see you. Please don't forget to see the replay on this. It's interesting. But as I walked into the chapel, there was Brother David in front of the altar area, just with the candles and everything else lit, and the icon pictures and everything. And Brother David had his arms out like this, all the way up, and kneeling, and he was saying out loud, consistently, "God, cleanse me, make me pure, cleanse me." And I just kind of stepped back. I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want anything to do with that. And I just closed the door real quietly. Later that day, in the evening time, right before dinner, a teacher was coming in one doorway of the hallway, and David was coming into another, and I was coming into another entrance of the hallway. And the teacher, right before I entered the entrance, the teacher said, "Brother David?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "How come you always have a cold? Why do you always have a cold?" And Brother David said, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, you always have a cold." And he just walked away. The teacher walked away. And I just thought it was an odd thing. And so it was the next day that I saw Brother David, and for the first time since I had known him, he didn't have a cold. And I'm thinking, how is this possible? Then I remembered, I reflected back on the day before when the teacher called him on that. And I said, whoa, this is interesting. And it was a few days later, or a couple months later, I remembered that whole scenario again from those past 2 days. And I said, wait a second, could that teacher have helped him to acknowledge that he was asking for it? And so I figured, I get a cold every quarter, so I want to try this. So I said, I don't want the physical symptoms anymore of a cold. And so the quarter came around that every quarter I would get a cold. And that quarter came around, and I didn't have a cold. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is a cat's meow. But that lasted for maybe about 10 or 15 years. I didn't have the drippy nose. I didn't have the headache. I didn't have the fever. I didn't have, a sore throat. I didn't have sneezing. I didn't have anything of a cold. And I'm thinking, this is the cat's meow. This is great. And so, but I did feel it inside myself. I didn't feel well inside myself for those several days that I would always have a cold for all those years out of my life. And so it was maybe about 10 years later, I finally woke up and I said, why do I have to feel this stuff in there? So I knew within myself that I wouldn't ever have to feel that again in me. And I did my magic. I saw myself knowing it and waking up feeling great all the times in the future, where I didn't even have the inward symptom because I knew the outward symptoms were gone. And so even the memory, I worked with myself in eliminating all that. Then the cold time came around in the quarter. I didn't feel it within myself. And for maybe 10 or 15 years, there was no cold. No cold inside of me or coming out of me. And it wasn't until one day in Nashville, I was coming down the stairs, excuse me, the escalator of of a mall, and there was this big dude in back of me, and it was wintertime, and he was wearing a coat, I was wearing a coat, and he sneezed on my neck, you know, not covering his mouth or nose or anything. He just, and I said, "Oh my God!" And to myself, I'm thinking, I got the cooties, and so, and I kept going, ugh. And then I went to where I was going, and later that night, I started experiencing getting sick. And I remembered that big dude behind me and me thinking, I got the cooties. And I figured, okay, maybe I can get rid of this thing, or maybe not. And I said, I haven't had a cold in 20, 25 years. So this isn't going to hurt me. So I figured, okay, it's nice to go through a cleansing. There's nothing wrong with the cleansing. And so I figured that's the way I see colds, are cleansings. And so, and that way they don't last as long when people do take that to heart when I tell them that it's only a cleansing, it's not bad. But it doesn't have to be as severe as we, you know, usually experience it. So I figured, okay, I haven't had a cold in 20, 25 years, and so this is not going to be so bad. But I started getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and I said, God, I don't like this. And so it was the next morning that it just about most of it was gone. And so we don't um, uh, we don't have to be a part of a lot of these dynamics, you know, where we believe that uh, chakras are creating something. And excuse me, I apologize. In thinking that we uh, that we're praying for something, and we have to take a look at what we're praying for and what the chakras are doing. But most people don't know what the chakras are doing. It's opening us up, but it can be damaging most often. Most often. And slightly or majorly, and very injuriously, I've seen some people. And so, and I've worked with a lot of people that have done those kinds of things. And what I'm suggesting is that the meditations on chakras might be contributory towards the laryngitis. It might keep it inflamed or irritated in not knowing what we're doing with the chakras. And I understand that just being practical and gargling with salt water might help if we stop doing those things and not knowing what they're doing to us. Gargling with salt water, say, you know, during the day, once or twice during the day, that has a very antiseptic healing ability to it. And what else? And also at night, only in the nighttime, taking a lemon, squeezing it into a glass, filling it up with cool water or warm water, whatever you want, and drinking it down. And what that does, and doing it after you have dinner, before you retire at night. And then what that does is, in the nighttime while we're laying prone, it collects the toxins from your nodes and your glands and brings them into your colonary, and in the morning when you have a glass of water, you flush it out. That also contributes to a quicker and a very effective healing in the body. And but you don't want to do the lemon during the day. A lot of people do lemon during the day. You can, but when you eat, it's going to redistribute it through your body. And lemon is the strongest acidic fruit that you can have, I believe, that I'm aware of, that will collect, with its properties, collect everything into your colonary from your nodes and your glands, and in the morning you just flush it out. And you'll find less hardship in the body, through lack of better words. So I hope everyone understands this. Oh, quickly, Diana, real briefly, please, you're having a surgical procedure tomorrow, I understand. And what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is to picture yourself without emotion. Yeah, that's good, Lynn. That's awesome. And it's definitely very, very effective, Lynn. Very effective. And just the way that I described it. And that's a great function for that. And Lemon is a tool. But Diana, I'd like you to picture yourself without emotion, without thinking about it, without the worry, without the anxiety, without the fears or anything else. Just seeing yourself when you're going to sleep tonight. Picture yourself waking up feeling good about the surgical procedure that you're going to be having, laparoscopic procedure. And it's nothing to do with being positive, it's being creative. So as you picture yourself, you're watching yourself wake up the next morning and feeling good about the procedure. Just watch the doctor as you're going in, just watch the doctor saying, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake, instead of being a tricky laparoscopic. This is going to be a piece of cake. Watch the confidence exude from him. Watch everything just, the room filled with joy of the nurses. Watch that. And because they're not going to be in a very emergent feeling, they're going to be in a joyful feeling. And then watch yourself coming into the recovery room, and just the doctor coming up to you and everything else saying, God, that was just so simple. That was so simple. If you watch that, you're going to set something in motion pertaining to that. And my prayers will be with you as well in that. I promise that. And so just watch yourself feeling good, and watch everyone else feeling good, and watch everything working so perfectly. That's the best thing that you can do. And don't worry about being positive. What is positive? Happy? Watch yourself being glad, and everyone around you feeling joyful. That's what really, really matters. And that's what's going to set the pattern for something. And then what you're doing is you're allowing the divinity, the godliness, the angels, everyone to help that fulfill, but even more perfectly. So that's what I'm suggesting to you. So please. And let's see, is there anyone else that would that has something that they would like me to work with? That's really one thing. I wanted to say simple. One thing that's bugging you. I don't know who's here. I can't see who's here on my phone. So please, anything is specific. One thing that you would like me to work with, and I would be glad to if you can just type it in there. Or even, okay, Kathy Hines, you rock. Thank you. I was just going to say, type in there when you're waiting for someone to tell me one thing that they would like me to work with. Type in between those times, you rock, hashtag you rock. Please. Google loves it. And it helps me. Lynn, can you please put up also the some information if you have time there? I would really appreciate that. And about the workshops, or how to contact me for an appointment or whatever. And even going to the website and seeing things. Please, Lynn, do that. Thanks, Patty. Patty, how's your hip? I'm curious, Patty. Please tell me, did you notice any change when I worked with it last time online to now? Loneliness is godliness in some way. And when we're lonely for people, we're lonely for the godliness within. It's reaching us through that medium. And it just wants to share with us. It wants to deeply, deeply share with us, Sam. And that's what it wants to do. I just want to share that with you, and it's so real with you, Sam. So please understand that. And it wants to love you unconditionally. And when we thank you, Wendy and Patty, as we find that loneliness within ourselves, and we put ourselves out there to God, okay, God, this is the way that I feel. What are you going to do about it? Then also what happens many a time with many people, not everyone, because it's not their place, but as we give it that loneliness up and we're resolved that we're going to be lonely, that's when something comes into our life, because that divinity, that godliness, is setting something up in between those times to have it happen. But we have to be open to it too. So, my opinion about things, the world according to Garth Mark, not being Ann Landers, but that's the way it is. And that's what I've seen 1,000 times with 1,000 people in situations. So please understand that. Okay, well, what I'd like to do is let me see here. I think I'd like to do a meditation, and a real quick one. So please, if you don't mind, close your eyes for a moment, because we only have a couple minutes left. Please close your eyes and just sit back and take a deep, deep breath and let it out through your mouth. And when you breathe in through your nostrils, imagine, image in action, that you're breathing in the breath of God, because it's written that mankind, man, woman, it's written that God breathed through the nostrils and gave us life. Well, if that's true, then we're breathing in the breath of God. If God breathed through the nostrils of man and woman, then we're breathing in the breath of God. Imagine what that might be like, to breathe in the breath of God and the life that comes with it and the regeneration that comes with it. And slowly, in slow motion, don't do quick breathing, slow motion breathing, real gently, real slowly. That's what matters. And as soon as you take a couple of those breaths, recognizing that you're breathing in the breath of God, then watch yourself going to sleep and waking up, just observing people without reaction, what that might be like. Watch yourself as you're going to sleep. It only takes moments to see this in your mind, but you're setting a new pattern. You're putting a new picture in there that's breaking old patterns. Watch yourself awakening to the new day in the morning, and from that moment on, with every encounter that you have, picture yourself just observing people, no matter what they're saying, no matter what point they're trying to get across, no matter what resistance they have with you, observe them versus reacting. Picture that. Picture that. All right. Now, open up your eyes gently, real gently. That's light that you're feeling, that you're experiencing in your life. It's a new pattern. I take that back. It's not a new pattern because you've had that experience before. It's a pattern that you're creating with more empowerment than what we've been experiencing in life. So there will be a replay on this, and please, Lynn, can you put up the information, contact information? And I don't know if you did. I didn't notice it. I didn't see. Thank you so much, Lynn, for putting that up when you do. Contact information and also the website. And if you're not a member already of the Spiritual Healing with Mark Ehrlich's Facebook page, not Spiritual Matters, but Spiritual Healing with Mark Ehrlich's Facebook page, please join us. Thank you, Patty. Thank you very, very much. Going hoarse, and this has been fun. Please come back next week and see us. We're going to have a lot of events, and we also did the prayer mini workshop or mini series, and we're going to be putting that up on after Lynn gets it through YouTube. Then we're going to be putting it up on Facebook tonight or tomorrow. And please do a replay, and if you do see the replay, hit #replay in the comment box. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate it, and everyone. It's been such an honor. And please join us again next week, and for the mini classes once a week that we're going to be offering, or a mini series. And again, thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.